Hi folks, Peggy Melanson here, or Chef Nostalgia as all you people might remember. I'm reading this tonight for a change. In the beginning of July, I placed my house on East Albion Street up for sale through a local real estate company. Initially, I asked if July and August were good months to try to sell a house because people were on vacation. I was reassured several times that this was an excellent time. As it turned out, that was not the truth. Disappointed with their efforts, I withdrew from the contract and decided to try to sell it myself with the help of the internet, the modern way of buying and selling. I placed it the listing with isoldmyhouse.com, Craigslist, and List for Less. What happened is why we are having this show called Facts About Selling Your Home. I thought I'd share my experience with all of you. I think it's important for anyone who wants to sell property to become educated about all the options available to them. During this time, I learned that not all real estate brokers are honorable, trustworthy, or honest. It's essential that you not allow yourself to be glib-talked. It's essential that you also learn to list with a particular broker after you have learned to interview them first. Because we only have an hour, I will ask each of our panel members 3 different questions about the process. I think they can supply us with some necessary information we require to begin the process of deciding. Give to a broker or sell by myself. Give to a broker or sell by myself. My understanding is that in the last couple of years there has been an increase of about 20% of people becoming brokers, probably because of the low interest rates. I don't really know. And 1 in every 3 brokers is new. And that means that many inexperienced people are competing for your money. A reporter from the Boston Globe recently interviewed me about my experience with the broker and my present efforts to sell the house myself. He also interviewed Pat Rio, one of our guests from List for Less. The story is supposed to appear in the Boston Globe real estate section Sunday, October 26th. I will be having an open house next Sunday, October 19th from 2 to 4. And then again on Sunday, October 26th, when the newspaper comes out, from 2 to 4. Pre-approved people are invited to come see the place. And you'll find out what pre-approved means when we talk to our first guest, Jim Brown. Jim Brown is from First Investors Mortgage. And almost a year ago, my longtime accountant, Charlie Sapichetti from James Associates in Davis Square here in Somerville, introduced me to Jim. Much like everyone else, I was paying a large interest rate on my mortgage and needed help with information about remortgaging. Jim was extremely reliable and helpful. He called me back every time I called him with some dumb question. So let me just start with you, Jim. Jim, how did you get involved with your business and why?
After getting out of college, I was offered a position in a mortgage department of a small local bank. And then things just kind of rollerballed from there.
And I'm going to ask each, as I said, I'm going to ask each guest 3 questions. The first question for you would be, why should a buyer get pre-qualified? And what's the difference between pre-qualified and pre-approval? And why is this important to the seller?
Well, a pre-qualification is more of a general overview of a person's financial position. It's done typically over the phone, and it really isn't worth the paper it's written on because nothing is verified. While on a pre-approval, an actual mortgage application is completed, income is verified, savings are verified, credit is pulled. The application is actually submitted to a lender and a commitment letter is issued. So basically, at that point, a property just needs to be found and a purchase and sale signed.
So that's why it's important to the seller to have that happen.
It's important to the seller knowing that you have a qualified buyer. You're not pulling your house off the market, so it's sitting. And it also just facilitates the whole process so it can happen in a normal time frame.
And what are the different programs available to buyers that help sellers?
Well, there are many programs available, but just to touch on a few, there's 100% loan financing where there's no down payment required. there's 103% loan financing. We can actually finance your closing costs. The seller can contribute towards closing costs in those programs. Other programs are for 2 and 3 family houses where we'll deduct the rent from the mortgage payment and the borrower only has to qualify for the difference. And those just kind of programs for first-time home buyers that make it more affordable, easier to obtain a mortgage.
What about interest rates? I didn't kind of tell you I was going to ask that, but I'm going to throw it in anyway. What about interest rates now?
They're still excellent, still at, we're at a 40 or 50-year low. We're in the high 5s, no points on a 30-year fixed.
And does it make sense for a seller to team up with a company similar to yours or any other, company to offer financial help to prospective buyers during the selling process?
I think it does, just so that you have a qualified buyer and that you're not wasting your time pulling your house off the market. At times it can scare potential buyers when they see, a gentleman sitting there in a suit and ready to drill them about their finances. But in general, I think it's a good idea.
I had something similar to that happen when I had a financial advisor from a company have 10% and 20% down papers on the side next to my pictures of the house. How do you think that, you said that you think that frightens people?
Yeah, I don't think you should be putting numbers down on a piece of paper because you don't know each person's circumstances, and a lot of times people will be shocked by numbers they don't really understand. So I think it helps to actually sit down with someone and really go through the numbers and feel comfortable with it.
So how does the seller get to have that information? I mean, how do you get that out of a buyer that's coming through the door?
Well, I don't think it's really up to the seller to do that. I think the seller should navigate the buyer, give him 3 options, maybe give 3 people to talk to, and let the buyer do it in a more of a private atmosphere.
So when a person comes to the door, you think they should ask for a pre-approval letter?
Definitely.
Okay. And then our next guest will be Rona Fishman of Buyers Brokerage Realty. I was introduced to Rona by Pat Rio from List for Less, specifically for this show. After exchanging emails and phone calls, I think that she has valuable information for sellers as well as buyers, but particularly buyers. And Rona, I wanted to ask you, would you tell us how long you've been a buyer's broker and why you chose that business?
Well, when I first became a broker, I did both. I had 4 listings in the first 6 months and decided I don't like the listing side of the business. It has to do with having something and getting people excited about what you have. And I really enjoy the search part and the sorting through the options and helping people make the right decisions and find the right match. And I've been doing this since 1991.
And what services can we as sellers expect from a buyer's broker?
Okay, well, a buyer's broker gives services to the seller as a customer. In other words, I can't give you advice about how to price your house or how to work with your, market your house. That you should really either do it on your own or get a broker for. But what I do is I actually bring the qualified buyer. And every seller wants a qualified buyer because the way that you get the best price for your house is to have as many qualified buyers interested in your house as possible. You want a lot of people to come through, but you want them all to be qualified, you want them to be motivated. And because I'm a buyer's agent, I work in a confidential relationship with the buyers, they tell me the truth. And I talk to them, they understand what they need to do, and they're not shocked by the process. So when they make a decision, they stick with it. They don't go vacillating around and going back and forth. They don't go, well, oh my God, I got to bring 20% down. They understand the pieces of the whole thing. So I bring a buyer who is prepared financially, I bring a buyer who's prepared emotionally, and I bring a buyer who's going to not hassle you. So not only are you going to get whatever price you negotiate, but you're going to get it on time, and you're going to get it with as little fuss and bother as I can possibly manage. And that's what a buyer agent does for a seller.
And what is your fee for services to the buyer? Or is it, now, I think we need sort of a distinction between whether the buyer pays the buyer broker's fee or the seller pays it. How does that work?
Okay, well, you changed the question a little from
I
what
know,
we rehearsed,
yeah.
but essentially you need to know how brokerage works in general.
Okay.
The way that brokerage works is that if you have a fully listed transaction, the listing agent, and Donald Norton can speak of this later, We'll set up a commission that will be part of the sale price. Now, the seller feels like they're paying that because it comes off their profit. But if you think about it, the buyer is actually handing the money to the seller, and then the seller's handing the money to the buyer. And that fee is somewhere in the vicinity of 2.5%. I don't want to price fix, but it can be 2, it can be 3, it can be whatever it is. And that's for each side. So if it's a fully listed transaction, and let's say ERA Norton has the listing, then that fee is already in there. And me as a buyer's agent would get paid by collecting that, what's called the co-broke fee. And if I'm going to a for sale by owner property, then it either has to come from the transaction the same way, or it has to come from my buyer. Now, I have a contract with my buyer, and my buyer is perfectly willing to pay it, out of their pocket. And usually, if this for sale by owner is negotiated and they're happy with what they've got, they tend not to mind putting it into the transaction so that it doesn't come out of the buyer's pocket but off the profit. And if that is negotiable, we do it, and if it's not negotiable, then we don't. So essentially, buyers I've done about 200 sales now, and buyers have paid me out of pocket twice.
That's interesting to know. Right.
So that's how we get paid, and that's always the sticky question. So I'm glad I got it out of the way.
Right. If, in your opinion, if we choose to go with the standard full-service agency, now this is where, as I spoke earlier, that we need. How should you go about finding a good listing broker? I mean, how would you interview one? How would you do that?
Well, the first thing people really need to know is that selling your house is one of the, if not the, biggest financial decision you're going to make in your lifetime. And therefore, you shouldn't be doing it lightly. You shouldn't be just answering some card you get in the mail or going to the Yellow Pages or whatever it is. You really do need to think about the process you want to be in, and you want to make sure that you're working with a professional who's really good. Now, there's a number of things you need to keep an eye on. And the first thing you need to keep an eye on is, what is your goal? Your goal is to get the best price for your home, get your money on time with a limited amount of fuss and bother. If you want to achieve that, there's a number of steps that are going to happen. Now, you have to decide whether you're going to do it yourself or whether you're going to hire help to do it. And the steps that you need to be aware of is you need to prepare the house for sale. You have to make sure the house looks good. The second thing is you need to price your house competitively. If you overprice your house, you're going to create trouble for yourself. Because if your house is priced higher and people come to see your house and then they see houses that are worth that higher price, your house is going to look awful. And they're going to remember your house is a dud. And then, 2 months later, when you've lowered your price, they're still going to remember your house is a dud. It's a big problem. Now, brokers can make that mistake, and for sale by owner people can make that mistake, and that's a big mistake. So that's sort of a warning that I see in the field all the time. In terms of the next step is really to advertise your home, and that's where isoldmyhouse.com, List for Less, and the multiple listing service, which is what the brokers use, and List for Less uses too. The Boston Globe, signs, flyers in the neighborhood, whatever you're going to do, you have to figure out whether you're doing it yourself or you're getting help. And the last thing is the arranging the showings, the being there for inspections, the making sure that your personal property is safe while it's being shown, and things of that nature. Now, those are all the things you have to do. And the question is, are you going to hire someone who's going to do all of that, or are you going to hire somebody who's going to do part of that? And whoever you hire has to fit in with the things that you don't want to do yourself. So that could be a full-service broker who maybe won't be doing the preparation for the home because you can do it yourself. So the first thing you need to know is, what are they going to do? Then the next question is, how do you pick a good one? And how you pick a good one is really interviewing. Plain old interviewing, just like you would do if you were hiring a babysitter, if you were finding a dentist, or any other professional. And the first thing you want to know is, what are the services they offer? What are they going to give you? How do you intend to market the home? You ask the broker, what are you going to do? And make sure that you know what they're going to do, know what they're going to charge, know what your obligations to them are, know what their obligations to you are. Find out how long the agent's been an agent. There's a lot of new agents out there. If you're going to be working with a rookie, you should make sure the rookie has very good supervision. Find out what the office support is. What's going to happen if your agent has the flu? Who's covering? Those kinds of things. Does the office represent only sellers? Do they represent only buyers? Do they represent buyers and sellers? What is the office philosophy? What's the mission statement? And the last and the most important thing, do you like this person? If you don't like this person, you're going to have a miserable sale. So those are the things you need to do. Interview 3. Once you've picked them, get references. And ask the references not only, did this agent in the past get good price and good terms, but was it a pleasant transaction? Or were you pulling your hair out? Were they acting like professionals? Were they even-tempered? Those kinds of things. So that's really what you do. And I have frequently my buyers trade up and they sell and they ask me, and that's what I tell them.
Well, thank you, because I have to say that a lot of what you said I didn't do. Because I did have a bad experience, and I was trying to work my way through it, and sometimes it's just best to just quit and run, you know. Now, next, I've known Donald Norton of ERA Norton Realty for many years. He's been a strong supporter of youth activities in Somerville. Donald taught the real estate course that I took up at Somerville High School many moons ago, where I learned that it's hard work and something I did not want as a career. He's a good teacher, but I'm going to stick to writing and storytelling. Another good thing about Donald, because I have interviewed him, not really interviewed him, just that I know him, is that he's never been sued in all the years he's been in business. So I think that kind of says something for his company. And now for his short first question. Donald, would you tell us how long you've been a broker? And I know everybody in Somerville already knows Donald, but we need it repeated for the people in Cambridge that this is being simulcast to.
Okay.
How long have you been a broker, and why did you choose this business? I know you once told me you loved it.
I got into it in 1976, took the exam. I went to do the exam, and there was 2 piles, agent pile and a broker pile. In those days, you could do either one. And the one agent was the one without the math, and the broker was with the math. And I went to Somerville High and really wasn't that great with math. So it was a Saturday morning around 7 o'clock at Northeastern University that I took the exam with about 3,000 other people. And I picked up the broker exam by mistake. But once you pick it up and you go in the classroom, you can't take it back. So I took the exam. I used up the whole 4.5 hours and pleaded for more time, but I passed.
So now why did you choose the business?
Well, I chose the business because I got married young, and I was a Board of Health inspector for the city. And I got laid off from the city, and then I went to work for the probation department in Middlesex County. And I've always liked real estate. I was a housing inspector for the city. And I always liked going into houses and, you know, just it was a fascinating thing in meeting people. So real estate was sort of like, I knew a lot of the landlords, I knew a lot of the people in the city. So it was sort of like, you know, this was a great business to get into. But I found out real quickly that it's a career, it's not a business. And a lot of people today, they take the course and they take the exam and they get in because they think there's a lot of big money in the business. Little do they know that the statistics are against them, because only 20% of the agents in the United States make 80% of the money. So, but it's a career. If you look at it as a career and not as something that you're going to jump in and make a quick buck and get out, this is something that I enjoy doing because I get up every morning, I meet new people, I enjoy meeting people, I enjoy putting deals together so that they find their house of their dreams, or I enjoy making buyers happy, and I enjoy making sellers happy. And I made a lot of friends over the years, countless friends. I've sold millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of property over the years. So I've enjoyed it.
Now here's your question number 1.
Right.
What does, now this I think everybody really needs to know this, because the average Joe like me, I mean, what does full service broker mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
So somebody out there that has no clue about banking or finances or anything about brokerage, what does a full service agency mean, and how does it help the seller?
A full service agency is a rounded agency, the agency that offers an awful lot of offers a variety of real estate for its agents, as well as products and services that they may have. I chose ERA in 1990 when I bought the franchise because it was a products and service orientated franchise, and it had a lot of things in educational programs that were available. And I always believe in education, that an agent should educate themselves. One of the first offices in Somerville to have buyer agencies. buyer agents in my office as well as listing agents, and a lot of my agents do both. It's very, there's still some companies that don't do them, but the mortgages that they might offer, or the products like the home warranty, there are a lot of different things that the full-service companies can offer. And one of the most important things is a referral-based business. I happen to be a member of the Sendat company, which is about 11,000 real estate companies across the country. And we get a lot of referral business, and about 40% of your buyers are coming from out of the state, all the way from California. I just sold a house to a couple from Seattle, Washington. So referral business, it comes in through the franchise. The franchise system is part of the full service. And then doing the mortgages and doing all the different things that we have that are available to the seller.
Now, this is an extra question.
Right.
Do all brokerage have full service? I mean, do all agencies have full service?
Franchises do, and I think it was, they just did the NAR, the National Association of Realtors, just said that like 92% of all real estate sold in the United States last year was sold by franchise offices. Which is, most franchise offices are full-service offices, even the smaller ones. But, you know, I liked her question, and her answer was great. And I
Well,
tell...
that's why I'm giving you different ones, because your answers are turning out wonderful.
You know, she's absolutely right, and I've known Rona, and I've done a few deals with her over the years. And she's absolutely right. When I go into a house, I always ask a seller if they've had another company in. And if they tell me no, I give them telephone numbers. I tell them, you should have 3 to 5 other real estate agents to come in. If this is a decision that there's going to be it's one of your biggest decisions you'll ever make in your life, is buying a house and selling a house.
And don't make a decision based solely on the...
Razzle-dazzle, no.
On the whatever they charge. That's definitely not a good way to go. I tried that one. Oh, don't give me that look.
It wasn't me that got in trouble with you, right?
Wasn't Donald. Is it better to choose a broker? Now, this is a question that I had talked to Pat about. Is it better to choose a broker from the city or town where your house is located? If so, why? If not, why?
Maybe 5 years ago that might have been a good question, but today MLS Pin 1 is statewide. We have listings in Brockton, Worcester, Lynn, Beverly. We just sold a house in Fitchburg, listed a house and sold it in 3 days. You don't have to, Massachusetts, it says Massachusetts on your license. And today real estate agents are everywhere. I sold a condo on Fellsway West, and the lady was from Springfield, Mass. She drove out here with her buyers. She was a buyer's agent, and she sold a unit. So I think sellers need to look at the real estate agent and the company that they're affiliated with the services that they have to offer. And one important thing is when they come in to do a price on the house is to justify that price, because a lot of real estate agents, especially the newer ones getting into business, are overpricing listings. Because, you know, I mean, it's an emotional decision, and
Right.
if I tell you your house is worth $300 and Rona comes in and tells you it's worth $450, you know,
Yeah.
I'm going to list with Rona because she said it's worth $450.
Exactly.
And you know, sellers need to, I have to explain to them how a CMA or a comparative market analysis is done, so that when they call in another company, they can actually question that company about the comps that they're using. That house doesn't look like mine. Why did you bring put that house against mine? How did you determine the value of my house? And when they have all the facts in front of them, they can make a rational decision, and they usually end up picking, hopefully, the right company.
Which sounds like you think it should be ERA.
I win some and I lose some, and
I know.
sometimes I get calls from people who gave their listing to somebody else, and then they call me when it didn't sell.
Now, let me ask you the third question. In this economy, what is the usual, in this economy, because it makes a difference than what it was 5 years ago.
Right.
In this economy, what is the usual listing fee percentage? How is it determined? What does a seller get for it?
Yeah, you'll not get me there.
No, but
It is based on, commission is always negotiable, and it should be negotiable.
Okay,
It should
that's
not
a-
be set. It's
all right,
based
that's
on
what I-
price,
Yep.
condition, and location. All 3 factors weigh into a commission. It really does, based on, if it's a high price and it's in a bad location and it's in lousy condition, you're going to get a higher rate probably. But it's always negotiable, and as a matter of fact, my agents, the first thing they learn when they come into the office is they never quote a commission, because there is no quote in my office. It ranges a wide variety of ranges.
Because I've been told 6%, 5%, 4%.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I haven't been told 8%, which it was a long time ago, but 6%, 5%, 4%. I mean, how does the seller feel comfortable? You're not going to answer this.
Well, no, I'm going to tell you that if you're going to, if a real estate agent, if you're appealing to the real estate agents out there, because when you put your house on the market, you also are not only appealing to the buyers, you're appealing to all the real estate. You want to appeal to all the real estate agents that are out there, because there are a lot of buyer agents out there, as such Rona is, and there's a lot of buyer agents in Cambridge that they have clients, and you want to appeal to them. So the commission rate that you may offer, that your office, that you hire, offers to that co-broke, that's important, and you need to know that a lot of companies do not split 50-50, and if they don't, you want to know why. Because 50-50 on a split on a commission, if I charge you 10% commission, I should split 50-50 with anybody that co-brokes. But there are companies out there that do not split 50-50.
So what you're saying then is that, for example, if say you charge 4%, that would mean 2% for the person, the buyer's broker, and 2% for your company.
Right, exactly.
Or whatever it is. So if they don't do 50-50, what?
Well, they don't do 50-50. They're shortchanging you, and they're not marketing themselves to Rona buyer agents do as hard a job as we do.
Right.
And they don't. There are some companies out there, even today, it's hard to believe, in 2003, and in here in Somerville, that don't treat buyer agents the way they should be, or they think that buyer agents do less than they don't deserve to get paid by the seller. And I am of the different opinion that it's a straight 50-50 co-broke, no matter what the commission rate is.
I think that's good for the audience to know, is that, you know, it goes, some people don't know what you mean by 50-50.
We have a question, we have a 18-question pamphlet, which we give to the seller, and then we give our 18 answers, and we tell them.
So we can always run down your office
So we
and
tell
get
them
the
to take that
pamphlet and
18
leave.
questions and give it to every other real estate agent that comes out, and we'll come out ahead every time.
Okay, that's good. Thanks, Donald.
Thank you.
Now, the next one is Pat Rio from List for Less. Just after I placed my home for sale on isoldmyhouse.com, this is this fella here, I met Peggy Snyder, who is selling a condo on Moreland Street, around the corner from my house on East Albion Street. We met, and we're kind of helping each other sell our property. There's another condo that I have some of her ads at my house, and she has, you know. So, but anyway, Peggy Snyder gave me Pat's number, and we talked on the phone, and I fell in love with her. When I called her, she supplied me with much of what's needed to sell my house myself. And she also, her service she put it on the MLS, which I found out, even from Donald, that it's extremely important. And it's on Realtor.com, so anybody can just go in and find it. So I'm going to ask you your little question is, Pat, would you tell us how long you've been a buyer's broker? You're not a buyer's broker, okay.
I'll explain what I do.
Okay, and why did you choose the business?
Alrighty. The name of my company is List for Less, listforless.com. It's an MLS placement service. And what I do is I help people who have chosen to do for sale by owner. I would never talk anyone into it because it's hard work, as you can attest to. And I put it on the MLS for them, and it allows them to market it to realtors who have buyers. They want to reach that audience, as well as buyers who they may find on their own. I charge a flat fee for it, $555. I put it on for 6 months. I supply them with the statistics from the MLS. They do their own analysis and interpretation, but basically they need to know what homes are currently in competition with theirs for sale, what's sold in the last 3 to 6 months, and what kind of co-fees are those other agents and sellers offering. It's very important that they make it worth an agent's while to bring a buyer to the home.
And the next question is, what are the key market factors to selling a home?
There's 4 key factors in selling a home: pricing, condition, marketing, and timing. And pricing, I think Rona really hit on this. Pricing is really important. You really got to try to get the price right at the outset, because you can lose valuable marketing time by not doing that. Condition is easy. It's easy in that we have some control over it. I think that if we spend time labor-wise, but not necessarily monetary, we can really improve a property. And I always tell people never underestimate the value of a really clean home, because I feel that people associate cleanliness with that the home was well maintained, and all of us want a home that's well maintained. So I think cleanliness is a really good thing. Marketing is how we get the word out there, and there's a bunch of different ways to do it. There's full service brokerage, where you can really get a lot of assistance and help from a full service broker. You can do for sale by owner. You can use isoldmyhouse.com, owners.com, some of the for sale by owner services. And believe it or not, a few years ago when the market was really hot, just being at a cocktail party and mentioning that you were going to sell your home, you could be marketing right then and there. I know of several instances where that happened. A friend of mine retired to Arizona, and that's exactly how it happened. The people agreed to wait till she retired 6 months later and bought the home. But now the market is cooling, inventory's up. Now people have to reach out more than they have in the past. And the last factor is timing. And I think we've all learned that there's things can happen that affect a sale of a home. For instance, none of us ever would have expected September 11th, and yet real estate deals went crazy after September 11th. That was a very tragic thing. I think we also have to keep in mind, typically there's 2 prime selling seasons, the spring and the fall. It quiets down in July and August during the vacation months. It quiets down, exactly like you found. It quiets down after Thanksgiving, and we're not going to see the market pick up again really until the end of January, beginning of February. But typically that's the quiet time of the year for agents, and that's when they aren't working quite as hard as they are during those spring months. And you can also think about timing in terms of, if you are having an open house, think about holidays too, or when you introduce your home for sale. Typically, it's not good to have open house on Mother's Day. Everybody isn't going to come for that. So those are the 4 factors: pricing, condition, marketing, and timing.
What about, what information and skills does an owner need to either find a broker or sell their own home? What skills do they
Skills.
need?
I think that...
They can't be shy. I don't think
No,
they can be shy.
no, absolutely. I think the primary skill for a for sale by owner is the ability to handle the stress of the home sale and to be a people person. If you are shy, it's not going to work for you. You really need to be comfortable taking the phone calls, doing the showings, having an open house if you're going to do that, and doing the negotiation. And if you're not comfortable with those, I don't think you should. I also think there's a newer trait that's desirable, and that is that you be somewhat computer savvy or internet savvy. And that's because today's home buyers are typically Generation X, and they use the internet. They depend on the internet. 3 out of 4 home buyers are using the internet to buy a home. 3 out of 4 home buyers are using realtors to buy a home. So those are things to keep in mind. And if they're going to use the internet, you really probably should have a little bit of knowledge yourself. And I know you do, Peggy, and I think that's very helpful. The other thing is I want to say is that some for sale by owners also create websites for their homes for sale, and they can get some information up whereby if the buyer can find out access to that website, they can learn a lot more about the home than they could in the remarks section of the typical multiple listing service ad. Photos and visual tours are really good
I
too.
was just going to ask you about virtual tours. What do you think about those, Pat?
Um,
Virtual tours, can you explain what they are?
A virtual tour is basically, usually it's a 360-degree panoramic view of a room, room by room, and the seller and the agent would choose the number of rooms that would be shown on the web. And it's a good way for a home buyer to really get a feel for the home. On Realtor.com, agents can also put on 6 photographs, which makes a slideshow, and I don't think it's quite as appealing as a virtual tour, but I think it really gives the buyer a preview of a home before they go in to see it. They can get a feel for that.
Mine, Pat put 6 photographs of my house.
Yeah. It's called a showcase ad on Realtor.com, and I really think it helps buyers. Studies have shown that buyers want to see photographs. You really have to spend the effort to do that. And I have seen on the West Coast, and of course things are always different on the West Coast than they are on the East Coast, but I've even seen in the up in the Seattle area, there's a office there that the agents will even take a photograph of a neighborhood to get a feel for what the street is like and going in and out of the area, and I think that that's really a plus too.
So that means that if I lived in California and I kind of made friends with Schwarzenegger, I could have him standing outside my house beside my pumpkins?
The governor, yeah, that's right.
Okay. And now,
And-
last but not least, my buddy Ed Williams of ISoldMyHouse.com. I think everybody has heard of this. He was kind enough to come tonight. Most everybody has seen ISoldMyHouse.com ads on television or heard them on the radio, and I did too. I listed the house on the site, and I found that the people who are assigned to the listings are pleasant and not pushy. Though I haven't sold the house yet, that's not his fault. Most of the calls I receive are from listings with ISoldMyHouse.com. I'm going to give you just a little brief overview of my own personal experience because that's what this show is about. When I first put the ad on, I got a phone call from one of the people that worked for him. Don't tell me now, Matt Bunker. Matt Bunker, young, I could tell he was a young kid. And at first I thought this was going to be some pushy, oh, buy the advertising, buy the $1,500 something or others. It wasn't like that at all. In fact, he even sent me some flyers of the pictures that I put on the house so that I could use them as flyers when I had my open houses. So I found it to be much like Pat's, and all of the people that are here, what they do is excellent. It's helped me anyway, and that's why I'm having the show. I want to just ask him briefly, how long have you been in this unusual business?
3 years.
3 years.
300 employees with 7 locations.
And you have television shows. How many do you have?
7 television shows produced a week in 6 different markets, 2 in Connecticut, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Maine, and on the WB56, Massachusetts.
And he also has a book that you can get in the supermarkets.
We have a magazine that publishes 1 million copies per month, and that's in 8 different regions, and it's
So-
distributed 13,000 locations throughout New England.
So I can ask him a couple of questions about this. You offer, this is one of the things I brought up, you offer free placement of your advertising. In other words, I email my information and they throw it up on the website. So it's free placement of advertising on your website to sellers. How does this work to help homeowners sell their homes? I mean, what's like the
Well,
percentage?
clearly the public has spoken. I mean, we all know that realtors will always be around and there's always going to be a need for good realtors, but there are a large portion of the populace that wants to do it on their own, especially if they're selling homes in the $1 million or $2 million price range. This can turn into mega dollars in a commission. We have about 12,000 homes online. We get about 5.5 million hits a day to the website, which indicates 100,000 unique users a day are shopping on our site. 5,000 phone calls every 2 hours. It is pandemonium. It is literally pandemonium. We did experience some problems in the beginning with an inadequate phone system. We have since invested a lot of money in a new phone system and are creating a call center. We really didn't anticipate this much success. We started this to try to save consumers money, and it mushroomed into this massive ball of success. Why it's a benefit is it's free. There's no cost to the public. We can ascertain the value of their house immediately through 200 appraisers that are also affiliated with us and have agreed to do bank appraisals for $100. A real bank appraisal that can be used in the bargaining process.
I didn't know that, folks. I just learned something. I'll be calling you.
Market analysis are not worth the paper they're written on. They are helpful in trying to ascertain a value, but there is nothing better than a bank appraisal. What a lender is willing to lend on this property. We also have just partnered with HomeBot, which is an online evaluation system, which can meticulously, within $3,000, hit an appraisal on a property through various search engines throughout the country. This is also a free service which we're offering to make sure prices are adequate and people aren't stumbling when trying to figure out what the price of their house is. We don't want to leave anything to chance. The most successful way someone can sell their house is through accurate pricing, as Pat said. That's very important. That's key.
Now, remember in the beginning I had spoken about some special advertising packages.
Yes, between the television shows, 7 shows a week, and the magazine, which does 1 million copies a month, we're publishing full-page color ads in 300 newspapers throughout New England a week. This is huge. So the Boston Globe, the Boston Herald, we've run these full-page color ads, and we allow people to pay a small fee, very minuscule fee, to feature their home in this full-page color ad. So that is just
Can you
one.
give us a price, like, what, I know it's.
$295 gets you 4 insertions in the Boston Globe in a full-page color ad. These ads are $20,000 a pop, and we're doing 300 of them. So it's basically another vehicle to get the word out if somebody may not be
Yeah.
looking for property on the internet. We try to cover all bases: television, radio, newspaper medium, and web. This ascertains that we'll have a full captive audience.
What percentage of people use those special packages? Do you happen to have?
75% of the people opt to go for packaging. Now, we sell 300 homes a week at I Sold My House. Unequivocally, the site does not work for everybody. We have 14,000 homes online. We have 300 new homes being uploaded every day, but we only sell 300 a week. A lot of these homes that sell, they sell quickly, within a day or two. We don't even have time to sell them packages. And as you experienced with Matt Bucker, we're not pushy. We
Yeah.
don't care if you buy advertising. It's there. We run the ads anyway. Whether
Mine is
people
the
buy...
little- Mine is the little gold one. It's on the front. What is that called?
That's gold and bold. That gives people the ability to find you quicker in the vast amount of listings. If somebody does not opt to go with gold and bold, then they're going to be buried back on page 50.
Okay.
And a lot of people find a house before they hit page 50. So the key is to
Yeah.
get your listing up on the first 5 pages before people start saying, let's call this one and let's call that
Yeah.
one. That's the key there, and that's a small, minuscule fee. But as far as the advertising, we don't force the advertising. We know it's imperative to get the job done, and we feel who better can represent the home than the person who's had the love affair with it for 5 or 6 years. We don't feel a broker that has seen the home for 10 minutes can represent its charm and beauty, and a lot of people agree with us. Some people don't know how to do it on their own, but then we provide the tools for them to do it and make
Or
them...
like we know, they can get a broker. I mean,
Absolutely.
as I said to Pat, not everybody is, you can't
Absolutely.
really be shy and withdrawn and nervous wreck.
Absolutely,
You have to-
absolutely. And
I'm shy, I don't want to have to do this.
And let me say that we are not anti-broker at I Sold My House. We have affiliated and licensed with us over 300 buyers agents who sign up and use our service to farm listings for their buyers. We had a clumsy system 8 months ago. We have invested over $1 million in a state-of-the-art phone system. The brokers now have access to addresses at their own desktop. They never have to call in to isoldmyhouse.com to get the listing information. With 5,000 phone calls coming in simultaneously, it was a cumbersome task for a buyer broker to maybe get through if they had a hot buyer. We've
Yeah.
eliminated all that fuss and muss by allowing them now to have direct access to the address
Right.
on the website. They never have to call in.
Yeah.
We sign up about 5 buyer brokers a day. All the big boys sign up with us now. And they realized that it is a wonderful tool and an asset to use if they're going to increase their inventory.
This is sort of not, let me ask you the third question, then I'll ask you I think we have time. How does your company help the average non-broker person with absolutely no knowledge of real estate sell their own home? I know that these packages,
In the magazine, I publish constant editorials every week on tips and success tips on how to prepare the home, as was already mentioned, how to prepare the home for sale, how to ascertain the proper value, how to go to our business directory and find a closing attorney that normally would charge $600. We charge $200 for a full closing. That's if they want to be held by the hand by an attorney. It's not required that a seller really do that, because the bank's lawyer really handles everything on the financial end, but a buyer may want a P&S reviewed, and we offer that for like $75 on the website. So they can have a purchase and sale agreement reviewed. They can talk to an appraiser who will come out and give them a full bank appraisal for half the price that normally is charged to a loan process. We have astronomical amounts of articles and docs on the website that just go on how to do this process yourself. It's very informative.
Is there anyone we can talk to? Because I have a tendency not to want to read all that stuff.
The testimonials are online. They can all be verified. A small percentage of them are, but we keep every every sale that has been successful, we keep in our database for TV shows, radio commercials, various other medias that we want to get the word out on how successful the website really is.
Okay, well, this was great. Now I'm going to ask everybody, I think we have time for just, I just wanted to ask everybody if they had one final hint, personal hint that they might, with all the conversation that they may want to give to a seller. All right, you're talking to me. This is Peggy, who's selling her house on East Albion Street in Somerville. Open house, the 19th and the 26th. And so whoever, you want to start, do you have any kind of hint that you want to?
Sure. Well, as far as the financing goes, I think just be prepared. Know to ask for a pre-approval letter, pre-approval.
It's pre-approval. See,
Approval.
I know I'm going to mix that one up. But
I
it's
wanna also
pre-approval.
We shield the customer's information, which makes us innovative. We do not release the customer's information who is selling the property unless an approval letter is in their possession.
That's right. That was what I actually liked about his site.
Sorry if I forgot to mention that.
No, that's good. And that way you're not taking your house off the market prematurely.
And they do not have to be approved with us to use the service. They can be approved at any bank.
So that's all. Just be prepared, financially, and even when you sell your house, be prepared for your next step too, because you don't want to sell your house and then realize you can't get into your house. So follow the chain the whole way.
And also, thanks for bringing that up, because that's what something. If I have to, does it make sense for me to sell my house before I go look for my next house?
That's a good question. Sellers think just because they have a house for sale, they're already approved on their new house.
No.
Wrong.
No.
Wrong. We get outraged people every day.
Yeah.
About 30% of the populace, when they call to get a seller's information, we won't give it to them because they're not approved. What do you mean I have to get approved? I want to look at the house first and then see if I like it, then I'll get approved. Doesn't work that way. A seller is not going to take their house off the market and inconvenience themselves and wait for 15 days until the loan process, until you get denied.
So, Donald, let me ask you, if I sell the house on East Albion Street and I want to move up to the western part of the state, should I go look for a house?
No,
No. You need,
absolutely not.
you need
It's
to be
probably the worst
approved.
thing you can do, because odds are you'll probably find something that you really like. And then if you do, you will probably, it'll keep you up a couple of nights.
Right.
Then the price that you may have decided to put your house on the market, now, you see, it's all motivation.
Right.
It depends, when you sell your house and when you're buying a house, it's motivation. My motivation is one thing today. It can change tomorrow morning, it can change tomorrow night. And if you find something before you sell your house, your motivation at that particular price is not going to be there.
Right.
So you're going to end up selling your house probably for a lot less than what you normally would have done. I suggest to every seller to put their house on the market and then subject it to them finding suitable housing within 30 days.
Let me ask Rona, does it make sense for me to...
I totally disagree with you.
But can I ask you a question? I wanted to ask, does it make sense for me to look for a buyer's broker up and see if I'm moving out of the state? Should I look for a buyer's broker?
Yes.
How do I find it?
Okay, let me just say that I disagree with the process, because I think that it's still a little bit harder to buy a house than to sell a house. It's evening out, but it's still harder to buy than to sell. And I think if you can get your financing so that you can hold both properties.
That's correct.
For a month or 2 or 3,
Yeah, but not
you may
everybody
be.
can do
Right,
that.
but see,
Not
I can't
everybody
do that.
can do that.
That's why I'm saying
Yeah.
I couldn't do that, yeah.
You can get a bridge loan.
Get qualified on the
Yes.
property.
Bridge
So
loan,
you're
yep.
not in a
Bridge loans and
contingency
stuff, though.
deal, which is
Yeah.
reliant upon you selling your
Yeah.
home for
If
your
it-
deal to
okay,
fly.
yes, if it's
Yes.
possible, the best of all possible worlds is that you find your home before you sell, and you can sell with the sale contingent
Very good.
on
Okay.
having 3 or 4 months to find a home.
That's very accurate.
See, and
When it turns, I'm sorry, I cut you off, but
what happened with me is that when I was looking at houses and mentioned that up in Amherst, people weren't interested in me buying their house because of that.
Oh, they're
Because
yes,
the
absolutely.
This contingency business,
Oh, yeah.
not one
Interested in someone
person.
If I brought you an offer for your house, and it was subject to somebody
Selling their house.
Selling
selling their
your
house,
house.
but they hadn't put it on the market
It's
yet,
not a real offer.
would you be interested?
Right.
Probably not.
No.
Because the
I'm-
pre-approval is only based on if they sold the
Right.
house and money that they
Right.
get
See, I
from that
probably
house.
wouldn't be
So see,
interested.
Can I tell
that's-
you, I am
that's the answer to your
finding,
question.
I am finding a lot of the public is severely uneducated when it comes to the process, which needs to be in
That's why I'm
place
hoping we could
before
have
you
another
shop.
show like this.
It's like walking into Best Buy to buy a plasma TV with no cash and no plastic.
Right.
Who in their right mind is going to sit and talk to you when you're just tire kicking or looking for design ideas?
Exactly.
If they're in a house without an approval letter, they're looking for design ideas.
Right.
They're not really motivated to buy that property.
What do you think, Pat? I want to kind of, because we've only got another 2 minutes. What do you think about?
I think it's painful when you're trading up And you really have, I think each person's personal financial situation and their comfort level is what dictates it.
Okay,
I've seen people
so my
panic
comfort
quickly.
level is not to do that.
Yeah, that may be your opinion. And also, too, some people are like so rigid about, I plan on selling it this date, and I'm going to go here and do this and do that. I think flexibility is key. If you're, you know,
Sometimes
it's
it's
good
hard
to
to-
have
yeah.
Plan B. It's good to know about some temporary housing. It's good to have something else in place to cushion yourself.
Or rent this house until I can find another one. You know, the reason we're having the show is because I'm actually uncomfortable. I'm
Well, it's
uncomfortable
good
with
to
it.
know a good
So I'm trying
mortgage
to
person.
find, well, yeah, and that's why I have
So you can be
Jim.
creative
Yeah.
and do the right thing and get it qualified for the new house, so there's no qualm about selling your current house,
Right.
and there's no contingency
So you
reliance
can
on
get
it.
pre-qualified for another house?
Absolutely.
A lot of our pre-approvals in the hot market did say it cannot be subject to the sale of a house. So
Right.
we would
Right.
submit the loan carrying all the debt, including the other house. And surprisingly, a lot of people can carry that with the flexible ratios they have now.
Financing has
the,
become
mortgage
very easy. There are
Right,
so
exactly.
many-
You have to be willing to pay $4,000 or
There are so many
$5,000.
there are so many subprime lenders now that are willing to lend to high risk, but you pay a slightly higher rate for the
Right,
privilege,
right.
but you can get the money now.
Right.
5 years ago, you couldn't.
But it's the payments
Yes.
that you
But
gotta
then
worry
once you
about.
sell, you refinance,
Then
and
yes.
and
You
you get
do
rid
that.
of the problem.
Yes.
It's
Right.
much easier to put it on the market subject to me finding a house within 30 days from an offer being accepted. I think it's much easier because it makes it's less of
Yeah.
a burden on you. I know many of buyers that have gone out and said, "Oh my God, I didn't mean to, but I found a house. You know, what am I going
Well,
to
that
do?
was
I
like when I
want this
bought this
house."
house. The broker I used said, don't buy furniture until this house is completed. Do not buy the furniture
Yeah.
until you
And
know,
they
till the
usually
house is
always end
paid
up
for.
buying
I
huge
bought the
furniture anyways.
I did buy it. But I'm older now. I'm not as much of a risk taker. But I want to take a minute now to just thank everybody. I've got another 5 minutes, so we can continue.
I have a tip.
Go ahead.
I have a tip. First of all, for sale by owner sellers, I do think it's good to have an attorney in place and have that relationship all lined up ahead of time, because I think there's two reasons. One is that you're going to need an attorney for some advocacy because you haven't hired a full-service realtor to help you. And the other reason is you can always use the attorney as the heavy. So if you're doing some negotiation and you don't have enough guts or gumption to say what you really want, you can say, let me talk with my attorney about it, or my attorney suggested this or that. So that's the reason for that. The other thing I would say to for sale by owner sellers is that you're always trying to find out if a buyer is working with an agent or not. Buyers are sometimes nervous about telling a for sale by owner seller that they are, for fear that they think the for sale by owner seller might not be interested. However, we know for sale by owner sellers don't mind paying half a commission a lot of times. So the question to ask is not, are you working with a real estate agent?
Yes.
It is, what's the name of the agent you're working with?
This is
Who's your
perfect.
agent?
It works for me.
And it deflects that. So if the buyer is working with an agent, they go, oh, it's Don Norton from ERA, or Rona Fishman from Buyer Brokerage Realty. And if they're not working with an agent, they go, oh, I don't have an agent. Now you have established that. And I would say if you're doing an open house, have a sign-in sheet and have that question on there. How did you hear about me?
Right,
First, how did
yes.
you hear about my open house? Because that's important for you to measure. Because open houses are kind of a mixed bag of successes and non-successes, as we know. But to also find out if they're working for an agent, have them put the name of the agent on the form.
Well, she gave me some wonderful ideas. They're sort of like, I call them half questions, where you say, how does your attorney like to have his offer sheets? Remember you mentioned something like this to me? I have a, I'm losing it now. The offer form. How was that question goes?
Well, I often suggest, I don't provide legal forms for
Right.
home sellers.
I have my own,
For
right.
for the simple reason that the one complaint I always hear about attorneys is that they wish that home sellers would get them involved very early on, and home buyers for that matter too, and that they can have some say about how that offer is structured. And they always seem to get handed a piece of paper after and have to work with it. So if a home seller doesn't have a realtor providing offer forms and bringing offers, then they should talk to their attorney about what kind of...
It's also key to have a real estate attorney.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, right, that's,
How
yeah,
many times
that's
have
what
you-
I-
how many times
Absolutely.
have you
Right.
run into an attorney who wants to do real estate and doesn't know anything about what they're
Yeah,
doing?
I have
Too
mine.
often.
I have my own. I work for her husband, and she's a real estate. Deborah Gavostis for the camera. Deborah Gavostis. Their family lives in Somerville. But she's my real estate broker, and she helped me when I sold my house on Wallace Street. She was the one that, and she found a $500 error that the other attorney, the bank attorney for the buyers, made. She just sat there and said, excuse me, and she just pointed this out, and they had to go run off someplace.
She knows how to read a
And,
hard one.
and she did it really, just like that. There's a $500 error, and they had to leave and go fix the papers and come back again. So it is really,
You'll never
really
forget
important.
her, will you?
No, well, I worked for her husband for
Yeah.
2 years.
Yeah.
So it's really important to have a real estate lawyer, not just a criminal lawyer who does this on the side. So it does make sense to do that. So this was really great fun for me. You guys, the reason I'm sharing this with the audience is because these are the people that were most helpful in helping me decide to try it all. You know, I tried selling it through the brokers, I told you. That didn't work for me. It was just because of that particular
But you
agency.
didn't sell it with me.
What?
But you didn't list it with me.
But I didn't list it with Donald, and I will never be allowed to forget this, that I didn't
No,
list
it's
it with
okay.
him.
It's not too late.
It's cool.
Yeah, he can do that. It's on the MLS. He can go pick it out, right? Somebody already from his office gave me a call, so it's not sold yet, but this experience was well worth sharing with everybody. And all of this, I said, all of these people have been instrumental in me learning, again, that I do not want to be in the business, and I don't envy any of you. I want to stay being a writer. I'll be a storyteller.
Oh, but it's a great business. Don't you think so?
I know, but see, Donald loves it. You act like, she acts like she loves
You
it.
have to be born without a shyness gene.
That's exactly
Without a
right.
what?
Without a
Shining.
shyness gene.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't have a
You gotta be
shyness
one.
gene.
You gotta be able to step out of your zone.
But
I
it
do
is
that.
hard work. The bottom line is
Oh,
it is
absolutely.
hard work. And I do think that many home sellers don't realize how much work, and home buyers realize how much work goes into it. You know, it is
And you
hard
give
work.
up your weekends. You give up your,
Yep.
and he
Oh,
gives up
nights.
every day of his life because he answers his own phone.
I'm the only CEO that rolls his sleeves up
He
and works in the
he
trenches.
answers his own phone. And I even have had Donald answer his own phone once in a while. Him, I always have to wait until he calls me back. But that
I'm a
only
victim
shows
of
what kind of
voicemail abuse.
That's because he's out there with the calculator. So this was great. Now I want everybody to do me one last favor. Tell me who you are and what company you're with. So,
Jim Brown with First Investors Mortgage in Belmont, Mass.
Rona.
Buyer Brokerage Realty, Rona Fishman from Newton, Mass.
Donald Norton from ERA, the Norton Group, Somerville.
Pat Rio from List for Less from listforless.com.
Ed Williams, CEO and co-founder and publisher of ISoldMyHouse.com.
And Peggy Melanson, AKA Chef Nostalgia, findingcourage.com.